low-income neighborhoods, working in public housing projects, talking to children who would tell me that when I asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up, they'd say, I want to be a doctor or I want to be a lawyer. Had the same aspirations as every other child, but they were 3-4 grade levels behind. And nobody had told them that the likelihood of them accomplishing their goals were each year diminished because we weren't putting the money in to make sure that they could actually achieve. And that's what I did as a civil rights attorney. That's what I did as a state legislator, providing health care for people who didn't have it, making sure that we are providing tax relief to those who need it as opposed to those who don't. So I want to make clear, John, that I think a lifetime commitment is how people are going to have to measure these issues. One last point I want to make, because I think the media has really been focused a lot on race as we've moved down to South Carolina. And I have to say that as I travel around South Carolina, I am absolutely convinced that white, black, Latino, Asian, people want to move beyond our divisions, and they want to join together in order to create a movement for change in this country. And I mean, I'm not entirely faulting the media because, look, race is a factor in our society. There's no doubt that in a race where you've got an African American and a woman and John, there's no doubt that that has piqued interest. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to sell the American people short. They are desperate to move beyond the same old arguments that we've been having and start actually getting something done in this country. And that's what the Democratic Party has been about. The Republicans may have a different attitude because they haven't been appearing before forums that are diverse and the policies, frankly, that they've promoted. And here, I think all three of us agree, the policies they have promoted have not been good at providing ladders for upward mobility and opportunity for all people. That is a fight that all of us will fight, but I don't want us to get drawn into this notion that somehow this is going to be a race that splits along racial lines.
Senator Edwards.
Well, first of all, before I ever was involved in politics at all, I was involved with Urban Ministries in North Carolina, which is a group that takes care of the poorest of the poor, the homeless, the people who are struggling. There are a lot of Americans, I've been in, some people here won't know this, but I've been in a fight with Bill O'Reilly. That's a fight I'd love to be in, by the way. I've been in a fight with Bill O'Reilly about whether we, in fact, have 200,000 men and women who wore our uniform who are homeless every single night. They are. There's absolutely no question about that, and anybody in this audience who's paying attention knows it. But what I worry about is all the work that I've done. At the Poverty Center that I started at the university, the work I did before I got involved in politics, all the substantive ideas. What I worry about is this starts to sound like a statistic. You know, we talk about 37 million Americans who live in poverty. That's more than the population of California. In the richest nation on the planet. I've been to hundreds of places around this country who take care of the poorest of the poor. Extraordinary, wonderful places. But I'll never forget, just a year or so ago, I was with a woman in Kansas City who told me the story, worked full-time. She had several children. Every night in the winter, she could not pay both her heating bill and her rent. She had to choose. Single mom, working full-time. She had to put her kids in all of their winter clothing, in their coats, bundle them up in the bed together, put as many blankets on top of them as she could, and she'd get them out of bed in the morning and send them off to school. And the last thing she would say to them, please, for goodness sakes, don't tell anybody at school what's happening here, because they'll come and take you away from me. No mother in America should have to live like that. We are a better country than that.
Joe Jones.
Senator Obama, appreciating what you said about the media's preoccupation with race, there is one. Right. The Nobel Prize-winning African-American author Toni Morrison famously observed about Bill Clinton, quote, "This is our first black president, blacker than any actual black person who could ever be elected in our children's lifetime." Do you think Bill Clinton was our first black president?
Well, I think Bill Clinton did have an enormous affinity with the African American community, and still does. And I think that's well earned. You know, like John, one of the things that I'm always inspired by, this I'm serious about. I'm always inspired by young men and women who grew up in the South when segregation was still taking place, when you know, the transformations that are still incomplete but at least have begun had not yet begun. And to see that transformation in their own lives, I think that is powerful. And it is hopeful because what it indicates is that people can change. And each successive generation can you know, create a different vision of how, you know, we have to treat each other. And I think Bill Clinton embodies that. I think he deserves credit for that. Now, I haven't, you know, I have to say that, you know, I would have to, you know, investigate more, you know, Bill's dancing abilities and, you know, some of this other stuff before I accurately judged whether he was in fact a brother. But
Let's let Senator Clinton
Well,
weigh
I'm
in
sure
on
that
that.
can be arranged. You know, I want to echo what Barack has said and what each of us has said repeatedly over the last days. You know, this campaign is obviously an incredible opportunity for so many people to become involved, to be part of making history. You've got a son of the South, you've got an African American, you have a woman. What better way to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King than to look at this stage right here tonight? And you know, I'm reminded of one of my heroes, Frederick Douglass, who had on the masthead of his newspaper in upstate New York, the North Star, that right has no sex and truth has no color. And that is really the profound message of Dr. King. You know, the content of our character, who we are as people, and I think that you know, my pride in being part of this campaign. Now look, it's a hard-fought campaign. We have differences, but it would be unbecoming of any of us to not share those differences and to make the points we're making, because we are competing for the most important job in the world at a time when our country has been disgraced abroad, when we have denied and ignored the problems that are afflicting people in South Carolina and across America, when we know we will inherit a huge amount of damage from President Bush upon taking office in January 20th, 2009, whoever the next president is. So we are passionate about our cause, our candidacy, what we believe, what we want to do for America. And it is a great privilege for me to be part of this. And I think it's important that we stay focused on the future, what we are going to do together to make our country once again what it should be, to deal with this myriad of problems that awaits, because we can bring our country together and we can set big goals again. We can start acting like Americans and solve those problems together, and that's what I want to do.
And I have to say, Wolf, that I especially appreciate the fact that Hillary and John were giving me a tough time, because that shows I'm doing pretty good. You know, I would be upset if there was too much civility in this debate, because it is competitive. One last point I want to make about this, though, and John alluded to it on the poverty issue. The one thing when I say we should not focus on my race or Hillary's gender in terms of choosing a candidate, that is not to say that we should be ignoring the very real problems that still